Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some of you. Thank you all for joining us again for this week's invited talk for the Responsible AI seminar series. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Hadeel Naeem, who is a research fellow at the Center for Philosophy and AI Research at the Friedrich Alexander University in Erlangen-Nuremberg. Hadeel mainly works on how we can responsibly form beliefs with AI systems, and she is also a member of the ERANET neuron project called ComPain, which examines the complexity of pain and its normative implications. We're very excited to hear this talk. I've heard from a few people that they've been looking forward to it. So, Hadeel, thanks for joining us, and yeah, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Calvin, for the very nice introduction. I just want to flag a small thing before I go in about myself. Um, in case you're worried at some point why I'm focusing on things that you're not interested in and not focusing on the ones that you're interested in is because I was trained as a philosopher and I come from like my training is in epistemology, which is like the study of knowledge. So I look at AI and look into questions of epistemology, like how can we responsibly use it to form beliefs and these sorts of things. And so you might find the kind of recommendations and problems and recommendations and technical AI side a little thin. And so that might be why. So let me begin the talk. It's going to be on AI and the complexity of pain. Oops. The plan and overview is something like this. I'm going to first talk about how pain is complex. I'm going to give you what I mean by that, what philosophers mean by that, what pain theorists, what pain science means when they say pain is complex, multidimensional. Then I'm going to argue that we need the complexity of pain. If we don't keep our notion of pain complex, then we are likely to commit epistemic injustices against people. I'll come to all of what is this in detail, just giving an overview at the moment. And then I will go into describing some of pain assessment that was around before AI and what pain assessment, AI-based automated pain assessment looks like. And then I'm gonna give you my main argument, which is that if we use these technologies carelessly, we are at the epistemic risk of losing the complexity of pain and therefore committing epistemic injustices and marginalizing people further. Um, and then at the end, there's a small section, well, not so small, smallish section on what can we do about these technologies? How can we make them in a way that they preserve the complexity of pain? So that's basically what the talk is going to be. Once again, the main idea is that pain is complex. We need to preserve pain complexity to avoid epistemic injustices, especially against already marginalized groups. And current AI pain assessment technologies rely on very narrow, only behavioral and physiological markers of pain. And and biased data sets. Such systems cannot capture the complexity in our notion of pain, and this can worsen the epistemic injustice. So that's the main idea, that's the main argument. You have it already. And now I'm gonna get into like sort of opening this up and like going into each and every section kind of in detail. So the first part is going to be pain is complex, multidimensional, and heterogeneous, and what I mean by that, and why I think that we need to preserve this complexity of pain. So pain is complex. Some people have thought pain's a bodily sensation. It's in the body. Some think it's a mental experience. It's something that, it's something that you perceive. It's perception in the mind. It's not a raw physical sensation in the body. There's all these debates have been and went on for very long. And it's somehow they've found and or they're now kind of settled on it's complex and it's not easily uh, we can't easily pick which one it is. So maybe pain indicates tissue damage that was proposed, but not necessarily because you can have pain without tissue damage and you can have tissue damage without pain. And then it was proposed that maybe it's like pain represents nociception, uh, a particular kind of sensation that nociceptor receptors kind of pick up. But we now know that pain can occur without nociception, and nociception can occur without pain. So, in other ways, some people try to find a pain quality, a specific singular thing, a quality that kind of describes pain, and they thought of pain as an imperative command, a signal to stop or change whatever is happening to the body. So, like, pain is something that says, you got to stop doing what you're doing. But not all pains indicate such an action guiding command. Chronic pains just sometimes they just are, and they indicate nothing. People just live with them. And some period pains indicate a command. You need to stop. You need to do something about it. There's something to fix. Others do not. So even types of pain don't really even they are complex. Um, and so others proposed then that perhaps pain has like a quality that is like more effective, like unpleasant. Pain's what is unpleasant. But again, not all pains are unpleasant. Some people enjoy their pains. They found in lobotomy patients that they would say that they still had the pain, but they didn't find their pain unpleasant anymore. So there's all sorts of like diverse experiences of pain, right? And they're not all unpleasant. And social pains are, like rejection, grief, jealousy are unpleasant. They have an unpleasant quality, but they're also not like the paradigmatic pains that you need medical attention for. So science has long looked for a pain mechanism, something neural, something functional to be like, okay, this is pain and this is how it presents in the body. How can we stop it? How can we treat it? But they haven't found a singular mechanism for pain. And they haven't even found a mechanism for even a type of pain, like, cluster headaches or chronic lower back pain or anything. Um, and so the sort of thing that science came and, stopped at is one of the important theories is called the gate control theory, which says that information from nociceptors, these receptors, travel to many subsystems. And these sorts of informations are inhibited or amplified according to many other information signals from cognitive and emotional processes. So a lot of other factors, a lot of how we cognize, how our emotional processes, they all kind of press on pain, and pain information also just passes on through different subsystems around the body. And so there's many gates that go up and down, close and open, and so it's really, really difficult to kind of find a clear one sort of singular mechanism to understand pain. It's not like tissue damage, brain signal, pain. Um, and so this pain science view that pain's complex and multidimensional gave rise to this theory called the biopsychosocial model of pain, which was supposed to help physicians treat pain differently. This was supposed to understand that pain is complex, multidimensional, um, and it arises from an interplay of biological, psychological, and social factors. People, well, which means that people experience pain differently based on past experiences of pain, how their past experiences were dealt with, what kind of emotions they're going through right now, their cultural and socioeconomic environment, their race, gender, a lot kind of sort of affects your pain experience. Um, and so no two people's pain is similar, even if it is the same lower chronic back pain, it's different. So anyway, and now I need to argue here that, or what I do in the paper is that we need this complexity. If we don't keep this complexity, we're not going to be able to understand all these diverse experiences. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing epistemic injustices against pain sufferers. Now, what is epistemic injustice? Um, it's a popular theory at the moment in philosophy. Miranda Fricker wrote about it in 2007. We're still talking about how to understand things, how to understand epistemic injustices. It's still a very important topic at the moment. Um, the concept is that when someone is wrong specifically in their capacity as a knower, either through having their credibility unfairly diminished or due to the lack of conceptual resources to make sense of their experiences. So there are two types of epistemic injustices. One is when a person's credibility is unfairly diminished because of their identity, or the other type is when they lack conceptual resources to make sense of their experiences. I'll get into a bit more detail into these two, and also tell you why how pain sufferers go through these injustices. So, testimonial injustice is when a person's testimony is given less than due credibility. Often, speakers suffer this credibility deficit due to negative prejudices about their social groups. For example, when a woman's account of workplace harassment is diminished because of sexist stereotypes about women being overly emotional or unreliable. Now, testimonial injustices have now, like, there's a abundance of literature coming out on how pain experiencers or pain sufferers um, report that they've been unfairly treated, or physicians and clinicians have not given due credibility to their testimony about their own bodies, about their embodied experience of pain. So physicians routinely fail to give due credibility to pain sufferers' testimony. Reports suggest that physicians routinely interrupt them. Like, so there's like Kidd and Carell paper sort of gets into like all this empirical work coming out saying how many minutes into the person describing their pain does the physician kind of, interrupt them in the beginning and such. Um, while the psychosocial model of pain acknowledges pain as heterogeneous and complex, physicians continue to focus on the narrowly sort of understanding of tissue damage, so that physicians still kind of, I mean, I don't know, I think I've noticed that as well. They look for the tissue damage. When they don't see it, they're like, it's in your head or something like that. These injustices especially harm people from marginalized groups. So Western healthcare inadequately studies pain experiences in like Black people and other minority groups, and cardiac pain in Black women has different physiological and behavioral markers. They've not studied these, so that when, they have a Black person's testimony, they don't give it due credibility because well, because they never studied them, and so yeah. The other kind is hermeneutical injustice when society, so this kind of injustice is when society lacks the interpretative framework that marginalized groups need to understand and articulate their social experiences. So a popular example of hermeneutical injustice is when in the 70s women were coming together and talking about their experiences of sexual harassment, but they didn't have the social concept, like it just didn't exist then. Somebody had to form it. And usually dominant groups are in control of forming concepts. So there wasn't any before that, before 70s, before they coined the term sexual harassment, as just a lot of women and their experiences, and nothing to actually put it into, a concept. And so this too you see in pain experiences, because research is mostly conducted on participants in Eurocentric institutions. The white male body is the standard for diagnosing and treating pain in pain science. And so pain concepts being developed by looking at pain experiences of only a portion of the world is unlikely to recognize pain properly in the rest of the world. So right now, these two injustices sound the same. Um, but I think that the differentiation is the testimonial is when the person is coming and giving a testimony and the other person's not listening to the testimony for whatever reason, not giving it due credibility. And this is the person not even the pain sufferer not even able to explain or give the proper concept of, because the concept's not present, because their experiences were not studied. So that's the difference. And so far I've hoped to have made these points, right? That pain is complex and diverse, multidimensional. Um, we must keep our concept of pain heterogeneous and study the diverse experiences of pain, as especially to avoid epistemic injustices against pain sufferers. Whoa. Right. The second part will be mainly about pain assessment. So, what was the state of pain assessment until now, and what kind of AI-based pain assessment technologies are being developed at the moment? So, self-reports have been the gold standard. Like they call them the gold standard of pain because pain is such a subjective experience. It's not quite like having um it's not quite like having a disease that, different people have, like the same kind of disease. For instance, you have say jaundice or something and loads of people have it. It's and there's something that they're all going through, and you can see by looking at their liver that they're all going through that. It has a mechanism. Pain is a subjective, extremely personal experience, accessible through first-person reports. Now, I wouldn't say only through first-person reports, but some people do argue that it's only accessible through first-person reports, like all the other ways of objectively, or like, for the other person to try and detect if XYZ is in pain, it's not really, it cannot be the same as a personal report. So healthcare providers depend on such self-reports to understand patients' pain. When you go to the hospital and you complain about pain, you often given like you often ask like 1 to 10 where how much pain, or like given some sort of visual representation of like, different kind of sad faces, and like asked to kind of say how much pain intensity and what kind of pain. Is it throbbing pain and these sorts of things? So self-reports are the main thing. Um, but self-reports are obviously not great for the medicine that they for them for medical science. Um, Pain reporters might exaggerate due to fear of illness, for different diseases they have, or different, illnesses they have, to obtain opioids. They may suppress their reports due to fear of illness, cultural upbringing, many reasons. Observers bring their own biases. They either minimize some people's pain or they wrongly assume exaggeration. So many different reasons that the pain's not really transferred from one person to the other person through testimony very easily, right? And then you have several populations as well that just can't reliably communicate their pain. You have infants, you have animals, people with dementia, post-operative patients, and so on. So there's a need for like some other way of uh, detecting if the person is pain, assessing their pain, not just with self-reports, or at least um, sort of tallying the self-reports with some other kind of analysis. And so facial expression analysis has been one of the main things that we see or have seen so far. Early efforts sought to measure pain objectively through facial expressions and body postures, behavioral sort of markers of pain, they're called. Scientific analysis became possible, especially with when they had video technology and they could really record these things and sort of then construct like these coding systems and these scales that would apparently identify 44 facial action units, like what moves on your face, and how that kind of transfers to knowledge about your pain intensity and such. And facial expressions analysis scales exist for infants as well, animals, and critically ill patients. There are different scales present. And these are the ones that hospitals use when they give you things, or like when they look at you and such. And like when physicians look at post-operative patients as well, they look at these sorts of things. Um, Facial expression analysis is far from perfect. Like cultural and ethnic factors influence the expression and perception of pain. Who is looking at whom, and like Black and East Asian women, for instance, may suppress pain expressions, observer bias towards familiar expressions of pain. You have, and then again, most and all research pretty much has been done in Western populations, and so there's not enough data on other parts of the world. Um, Scales that have been developed in parts where like there's money have been um, exported to these other populations, and they're just using them on people who might not have the same kind of facial expressions, indicating the same kind of intensity of pain. AI now comes the main topic of the yeah presentation, which is AI-based pain assessment. So, looking into AI-based pain assessment, researchers developing AI tools. Let me first give you a little bit of what's going on, and then say how I think it can be useful, but like what the problems are, right? Researchers developing AI tools to detect pain, measure intensity, identity, pain types, all these things, and the tools that they're developing majorly are behavioral pain expressions, so they're analyzing these facial movements, body postures, verbal descriptions, and physiological markers as well, skin conductivity, temperature, blood flow, heart rate, these sorts of things. Um, and so I'm gonna talk a little bit about all of these really quickly. AI-based facial expression analysis, like facial expression analysis, dominates current AI pain assessment research. That's like the most main thing that they're focusing on. They've got these big data sets that are focused on shoulder pain and like specific like heat pain stimuli. So like um, they use a certain kind of stimuli to get different kind of facial expressions. They record that and then use that to make these algorithms. Algorithms trained on facial pains features, brow lowering, cheek raising, lip corner pulling, these sorts of things are recorded. Um, and once trained on patterns of pain types and intensities, tools can predict pain intensity based on facial expression analysis. A new patient comes in, you've got your AI that has trained on large number of data, a very specific kind of data, right? But large quantities of data, and then they look at the AIs used on the new patient to study their facial expression or changes in their facial expression to understand or detect the changes in their pain intensity and such. Similarly, body posture analyses is similarly done, kind of taking into consideration head eversion, forward body leans, and so on, these sorts of things. Then you have natural language processing is being used, and so um, they're developing algorithms, learning patterns from healthcare providers' reports as well as patient self-descriptions of pains. Um, and there's like loads of physiological, even neurophysiological markers being developed to detect pain, like heart rate, respiration rate, blood oxygen saturation. All of these data has been recorded, blood volume, pulse, skin temperature, skin conductivity, blood flow volume, skin conductivity due to sweat and moisture. I don't know why I repeated that. Anyway, um, so many of these physiological markers and data on them are being used to train algorithms as well. Now, there's many advantages to AI-based pain assessment. First, very valuable for populations that are unable to self-report their pain, obviously. So infants, critically ill patients, animals, people with dementia, and so on. Um, it's helpful, obviously, if we can have something that can help us understand how much pain they are in, if it's more than yesterday, if it's lower than yesterday, and so on. Um, Preliminary studies show greater accuracy and sensitivity. I mean, this sort of data, as much as I've looked into these empirical studies, it's all over the place. Um, Most of these AIs aren't out for clinical use. Um, the Pain Check app is one of them that is kind of like out there. You can use it. It's technically supposed to be for people with dementia, to be used in nursing homes, but I think you can download it and apparently use it on infants as well. And it tells you exactly how like it uses like 40 different it looks at 40 different units on your face and kind of measures how much pain you're in. In a three after looking into a 3-minute video of you. Um, but yeah, but accuracy is just like all over the place. They're reporting sometimes great, sometimes not so great results. Um, it can eliminate observer bias. It doesn't matter anymore if the physician is too tired, if they're racially biased, if they don't understand the person sitting in front of them because you've got this machine that's trained on data, a lot of data, and more data than the clinician has ever, you know, number of patients that they've ever seen, for instance. And it enables continuous pain monitoring. right? And one of the more important points is that with AI pain detection systems, you have a continuous pain monitoring, which is sometimes required, which is really required in like critical pathologies, in post-operative patients that you want to just continuously measure, and that's measure their pain or detect their pain or keep a record of their pain or develop other kinds of technologies that could also just like manage the pain as well. So like you detect the pain and that releases a medicine and these sorts of technologies as well. Um, and Can be incorporated into wearable technologies and Internet of Things systems. So many have written about these for like people with dementia. Would be nice to have some Internet of Things kind of systems that manage their life, improve their quality of life, could help detect their pain. And yeah, and it's hard to see a future where, humans can be present all the time, and it would make sense that we have some kind of technology that is more present and there for those who need continuous pain monitoring. And one of the main things to notice here is that all of these different modalities can be put together. We can think of multi-model assessment. Models may integrate data from self-reports and medical records and physiological signs, and all the behavioral indicators like facial expression analysis and such can all be put together, even put together with imaging data from like tissue damage and stuff. These sorts of things can all come together to give us like a complex picture of pain. Like so the complexity can maybe be modeled. Um, and that would help further with the accuracy and sensitivity, right? Now let's go into the third part. The third part starts with what I think the problem is, which I say in one slide, and then I talk about how I think we might be able to improve these technologies, right? And that's it's a philosopher's perspective and not a technical, but I'd be very keen to hear what you have to say about this and how I can help improve these sections, right? Um, so adopting such pain automated technologies, my problem with this is that it will cost us the complexity in our concept of pain. Even though you can make multi-model sort of algorithms, I still think that it will cost us the complexity in our concept of pain. And it will, if we can't keep our notion of pain complex, then it will obviously add to the epistemic injustice already out there against pain sufferers, especially people from marginalized groups. And this is primarily because AI pain assessment is focused primarily on a few behavioral and physiological markers and cannot capture the complete heterogeneity of pain. But even more importantly, the research and data that we're using to design these technologies do not represent the entire world fairly. So you've like these technologies at the moment are capturing a few modalities and in only a a little part of the a little population of the world. And so it's not going to capture um, the heterogeneity in pain, which we need. Right. So, I want to say now some things about how I think we can improve these technologies um, in a way that they capture pain's complexity. And so these are some of the ideas that I have that I'll go through in the next 5-10 minutes. The first is we need diverse, well annotated, unbiased data. Second, we need to work out what kind of models we need. So I would say that I'm still lost on number two. I don't know specific. I don't know what kind of model would help sort of in this situation, sort of capturing the complexity of pain. And third, the others are kind of obvious. We need to make algorithms explainable. We need human oversight. We need to implement bioethical and responsible technology related principles, maybe even develop new ones, right? Like starting from the first, We need to preserve the, wait, where did I go? Right. We need to preserve the heterogeneity of pain by training AI on diverse, unbiased, and well-annotated data sets. What I mean by proper annotation is that you include everything like participant details, the stimulus used, the location, all of these things. The data sets cannot be, they can't have, so at the moment, what they're working with is data only on shoulder pain and like one kind of stimulus, heat stimulus, and that's kind of been used to understand the facial expression of shoulder pain and a heat stimulus and shoulder pain. And the facial expressions used for like it's gonna go on and be used and be used for anything, all kinds of pain in all kinds of people. And that makes that's not good. Um, and the annotator's information is very important because a person looking at the person with the facial expressions should be able to understand how different people respond to pain and how their behavioral expressions, like facial expressions, are different people from different ethnicities and cultures. And um, common sources of bias are racial and labeling biases, missing data, algorithmic processing biases. These need to be worked, obviously, and data sets must reflect global diversity in pain expressions. Um, then I go into saying, right, this is the second part that I am not sure about. So I literally put it in the paper just like this, that we need to empirically work out. Um, what kind of model would be good at preserving the heterogeneity of pain? So one kind of model would be a general model that is trained on rich, diverse, and very annotated data covering many kinds of pains in population, and we leave it to the model to learn the complexity of uh, complexity of pain and the diverse expressions of pain in people. The other possibility is that we make very targeted models tailored to very specific types of pain. So you make for a period pain model, you train it on different groups in different parts of the world, but it only does period pain, and then the stimulus is also the same, and so um, yeah, it's not heat pain on shoulders that is being studied. Um, Transparency is extremely important, obviously, to preserve the complexity of pain. We need data and algorithms that are open and transparent. We must have access to the data sets and design choices that shape them. Proprietary models are going to be obscure, and potential biases will sort of hinder accountability and such. Explainability is very important. Explainable AI can help ensure algorithms account for the heterogeneity of pain. Explainability matters because it helps patients understand and challenge decisions, supports clinician oversight and responsible use. It enables developers to refine and improve models, and not any kind of explainability. We should try and make interpretable models from scratch and not just like retrofit black box ones. Informed human oversight is essential when using these technologies, and what kind of human oversight that would be is clinicians must understand how these tools work, what data they use, and their limitations. Training should cover when and why these tools may fail, especially in ambiguous or boundary cases. Clinicians should be able to override AI outputs, particularly for underrepresented patient groups. Human judgment must remain central, giving due weight to patient self-reports. And we need iterative oversight, which means errors should be flagged and used to refine the model over time, instead of being stuck with like one thing. And so, um, yeah, and so we need to both traditional bioethical safeguards, like these four principles, four biomedical ethics principles, and we also need technology specific principles that ensure data transparency, data quality, and algorithmic explainability and such. And we must develop new pain assessment specific checklists to preserve pain complexity. I guess that should be my next task. But yeah, anyway, So thank you for listening to me. And this paper is already out. If you want to look into it, if you want to comment on it, if you want to have a look at it, it's in Philosophy and Technology. Um, it's it was published, I think, this month or last month. Last month. Um, I mean, it hasn't been given an issue yet, but it's out. The online version is on Philosophy and Technology. It's part of the Era Net Neuron project called Campaign. If you're interested in the project as well, to have a look at the website. Yeah, thank you.
Hadeel, thank you so much. I've linked the paper in the chat. Oh, I accidentally sent it directly to Karen Beer. I'm sorry. So now everyone, it's in the chat. You can check it out if you're interested. Omid, I see that you've got a hand up. That's great. I'm just going to stop the recording so that we can talk a little bit more freely. But yeah, thank you so much, Adil. Very